Has the NBA returned, coming full circle,
No,
realizing that big threes aren't the best way?
John, we literally are in a big four right now.
Not really.
Yes,
No,
really. Yes, we
no,
are.
no.
Yes, we are. Chris Paul is still Chris Paul. He's not gonna be asked to do a lot of scoring. He is going to be the playmaker who can average 10 assists a game or more. All right. And play passing lanes on defense and hide him in the corner. Kevin Durant, a walk-in 30 piece on any given night. Devin Booker, basically the same thing. DeAndre Ayton, for how much you say no, he's still an all-star caliber player who can
No.
give you 20 and 10. That is a big four.
Dropped
That's a
30
big
plus the other
four,
night.
John.
But the complementary Chris Paul and DeAndre are not
They're
stars.
not
Neither are
complimentary,
top
brother.
10. Neither are top 10 at their position.
You don't have
And
to
they're
be a
not
top 10 to have
complementary.
it, but was Chris Bosh a top 10 player when the Heatles came together?
I'm saying
No.
neither are top 10 players at their position. At their position.
That's you're
There's
losing
10
this.
centers better than
No,
DeAndre
there's
Ayton.
not
Yet
10
I
centers better
think
than
I think
DeAndre Ayton.
it's close.
No, it's not. I'm sorry.
Joel
You're
Embiid,
completely wrong
Nikola
on that.
Jokic, Anthony Davis, Karl Anthony Towns, Bam Adebayo, Domantas Sabonis is better. And when it comes to utility, who is more useful? When I get to 7, I take Nick Claxton over DeAndre Ayton because he's a way more versatile player, a better shot blocker.
Didn't DeAndre Ayton just drop 30 on him?
He did just drop 36
He
and
did.
10. That's what I'm
But
saying.
that the consistency is not there. That's the
But
issue.
he's not being. But now he's not even going to be asked to do
48
that
points.
anymore. Now he's not going to be asked to do that anymore either. Like you just said, he's going to be asked to be the rebounding guy and to be a rim protector.
He's not much of a shot blocker. He's
Well, I
solid
mean,
defender. He's not
that's
very good.
something you can learn. It's not like something that you're only just given a gift of, like leadership. That's something you can learn.
Mhm.
So if he's got the ability to learn it and buy in, like you said, then that's great. Listen, John, it's a big four. I understand that you have your little spite, Chris Paul. Oh my God,
Chris Paul's
he's
not a top
still
15
one of
player.
the best passers in all of basketball. He's still one of the best leaders in all of basketball. He's got one of the highest basketball IQs in all of basketball. He's still a pit bull and will give you everything on defense in the playoffs, even though you can take advantage of him. He's still got great pass perception when playing off ball. He can still knock down free throws at a 90% clip. Like you
Most
acting
point
like
guards
Chris
can do that.
Paul is just this.
Most
Ugh,
starting point guards can do that. Shit, right?
be the what,
Most
did you
starting
hear
point guards are
my?
not Chris Paul.
Most starting point guards have the best basketball IQ in all of basketball.
I'm not saying that, but they could replicate Chris Paul's production and his usefulness. You're acting surprised here, my
I'm
friend.
not acting surprised. I'm acting like sometimes I question your basketball IQ a little bit.
Chris
do
Paul's
think you're
not top
being
15 point guard.
I do think you're being a little disrespectful to what Chris Paul actually brings to a team. That's not something that you just get out of any slightly above average point guard. Yeah, while Chris Paul has regressed, just 2 years ago playing in the NBA Finals, they're not there without him either.
No,
You know, he
the
played
Suns are still a poverty franchise without Chris Paul. Remember that. Chris Paul is the reason that they got good. Devin Booker was putting up all those points with no
Absolutely.
wins behind it. Chris Paul came in. Holy crap, they're in the freaking NBA Finals winning 60 plus games a year. That's not a coincidence, Jonathan.
Well, it's also a second year of Monty Williams and a defensive
every
upgrade
team
in
that
Jay
Chris Paul
Crowder.
has been on, he's elevated.
Yeah, but there's
Every
so many
single
great
team.
point guards in the NBA. I just feel like, while Chris Paul can hit a gear in the playoffs and have great moments, I don't consider this a big four necessarily. Now, it's all subjective here. You may be able to. I want to come back to the question and come wrap around. Are we seeing the end of the big three? Not the big
Because
three.
we're in a big four right
So
now.
Are we seeing the end of the super team era?
I don't
No.
think so. I do believe that. Well, I mean, yeah, Brandon said there's a fantastic four now. I still believe that teams are gonna try and load up on stars whenever they get the absolute chance to. So it may not, the chance for a big three may not always be available, but the second that it is, a team is gonna go after it. The Clippers would love to add an extra star to put alongside
No.
PG and Kawhi. You know,
The
I don't
Lakers
think
just added D'Lo. He's an all-star caliber player. That's a big three now.
I just feel like if it's the superstar, if the superstar is out there and it's available, teams will go after it. But I mean, I would prefer just Brandon prefers it too. I know you do as well, John. I would love to just see duos dominate the NBA.
Mhm.
2 stars probably on each team. It makes it makes these playoffs so much more enticing
Mhm.
rather than seeing super teams just roll through squads
Yeah.
year after year. But it's not dead. We'll
Mhm.
just see less of them.
So real quick, you guys scoffed when I said DeAndre Ayton is not a top 10 center. I'm gonna give him a top 10. I gave you 7 before. So is Jokic, Embiid,
Yeah, but no,
Bam,
but you also
Cat,
added some power
Sabonis,
forwards in
Anthony
there.
Davis. What?
You also added a couple power forwards in there too.
No, I didn't. Sabonis is playing center. AD's playing center.
Anthony Davis is back and forth.
Anthony Davis played 100% of his minutes this year at the center spot. If the only one you can point out to is Karl Anthony Towns because Bam's playing center. So we'll go 6 for the sake of argument, and we'll take out Cat. Number 7 was Nick Claxton. Number 8, Miles Turner, I think is more useful
No,
than DeAndre Ayton. Yeah, he
you're down
spaces the
on
floor,
Miles
high
Turner.
level rim protector, better defensive player. Number 8, Brooke Lopez, I think is pretty close. I
No,
think they're in the
not
same
even
tier.
close. Not
It
even
is
close.
close.
This is not
Well,
10
Brooke
years ago,
Lopez is an
John.
all-league
This
defender
is
that
this is
shoots.
not 10 years ago.
No, Brooke Lopez is a more useful player because of the skill set he brings. It's additive. 9, Wendell Carter is in the same exact tier as DeAndre Ayton. They're very similar players. And then at that point, I have Ayton right in that 7 to 11 range. I don't think there's much of a gap between him and Brooke Lopez because Lopez opens up the floor. He's an elite rim protector, and this year he's been a driving force in a Bucks defense that's helped them get in the playoffs. With Ayton, he may be more skilled, he may have better touch, but when you don't bring that night to night, I don't consider you a clear top 6 center because you're
We didn't
not.
say top 6. We said top
But it's
10.
subjective, like you guys said. You can consider this a big 4, and I'm not going to hold it against you, but I'm just I'm not going that far quite exactly with Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton. But they could realistically shut me up in the playoffs like they did in 2021. So
I
in
mean,
2021 I hadn't gone to the finals, but
you're
even
picking them in the finals. So I mean, they're basically you
because
just
of Kevin
you
Durant and
bet
Devin
it.
Booker.
So what do they have to do to shut you up? Does Ayton have to average 20 and 10 in the
Ayton
playoffs?
has to
Does
man
Chris
up and
Paul
be
have to what does
consistent. He
Chris
needs to
Paul
put
have to do?
himself aside. Ayton needs to stop being selfish and play winning basketball the way he did in 2021, bring it night in and night out, not most nights.
And
And
what
Chris
does Chris
Paul, I just
Paul have to do?
I just want to see him hit that 4th gear, which he's shown only in spurts this year. You can't tell Chris Paul if he's saving that gear for the playoffs or if it's actually just gone at this point. He's down in the 3rd gear.
It's age.
Yeah, they're not going to be. They're not asking him. He's not going to be asked to do as much now.
Well, he's
Because
going
now
to be
they've
attacked
got
defensively.
they've got two
No,
elite
that'll be.
scorers,
Yeah.
and
And
now he's got a
playoffs come
two
around, he'll
seven.
probably be off the floor.
He's got two. What'd you say? He's going to be off the floor in the fourth quarter.
When he gets attacked defensively the way he did in that
We're
Dallas,
going to take Chris Paul off in the most important possessions and minutes of a game.
were you watching the Mavericks series last
Are
year?
they going to take Chris Paul off
Yes,
the
they
court?
will,
They
because now
are.
they don't need
This
him.
is why you would never be an NBA coach, John. You're
No,
taking
no.
Chris Paul
Yes.
off the court.
Because teams, so people like you don't recognize this, I guess. Chris Paul.
No, because do you have 2 7-footers behind you now? Do you have 2 7-footers? Does it not fall on their responsibility too to have his back?
But now they have to
Does it
help,
not fall
and that
on their
creates an advantage.
responsibility too?
But that creates an advantage for the opposing offense. If they have to help on Chris Paul, that opens up somebody
It's
else.
basketball. You ask help defense. But you rotate. That
Yes.
comes into coaching. So Monty Williams, step it up. Have your players ready to be
Brandon,
in position.
how else do you explain the Suns' collapse last year versus the Mavericks?
Chris Paul didn't show up. He shat the bed. I'm not arguing. Nobody's arguing that point. But guess what? He's not going to be asked to do the same thing he was last year. He's going to be asked to be a playmaker, strictly point guard. They've got 2 guys who can average 30 in their freaking sleep.
And opponents look at him defensively and they see meat. That's what they see.
But
They're
guess
going
what?
to-
He's much better than you defensively. And you got 2 7-footers behind you.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Suns deviate away from him because one will probably be banged up for whatever reason. And against the Luka, he's just not going to be on the floor sometimes in the closing minutes. And that's fine. You don't need him.
I would
Have
I would
Book
bet
and
my
you have
house that
Ayton.
that is not the case. Bet my freaking house that's not the case.
Chris Paul's not much of a spot-up player, so his role as a playmaker is less necessary now. So if you put in Damian Lee, who's a better, more staunch defender, and an elite 50% three-point shooter, that can be a better fit in the closing minutes of games.
Why do you need him to shoot at 50% from 3 when
Because you want a floor spacer, Brandon. You want someone that's not going to get attacked.
He can hit a 3-pointer.
Yeah, but that's not his game. That's not his style. That's not his brand.
Again, but we're
We're not
not
talking
asking
about
him to do
capability
that
here.
again. Like we're not
That's not
asking him to
that's
do
not where
that.
Chris Paul is at his best, spying up off the
Why would you take one of the best playmakers off the court in basketball and put in a
because
guy who's not
now
a
you
very
have
good
Kevin
playmaker?
Durant and Devin Booker. That's why if he's getting attacked on the defensive end. That is all, man. This is not that confusing.
I think you're very confused right now.
On to the next.
Justin,
So,
what do you think? Come
well,
on.
I mean, I understand where both of you are coming from. Yeah, Chris Paul's older. He's a little slower now. He can be taken advantage of if he's, like you said, defensively. If he's going up against a guy like Kyrie or Luca, he's probably going to get chewed up. But Brandon also is right. You got 2 7-footers behind you to make up for it that have to step up. You want to see Ayton step up? Now that's a situation for him to do so. There probably will be moments in time where Chris Paul's off the floor just for defensive purposes. That's also
Not in
just
the
the right.
closing minutes, though.
That's
Not in the
no, not
closing
in the
minutes.
closing
Not
minutes.
in the
No,
closing
absolutely. I
minutes.
don't think if there's a minute left in the game,
That was my
Suns
whole
up by
argument
one.
against Shad is that when he brought that up, I thought he's not going to be off the court in the late game, fourth quarter in the playoffs.
Yeah,
That is
because I
absolutely
think
out of
you're.
your mind, dude. You're not taking Chris Paul off the court. This is not Ben Simmons, man.
No, yeah, no, it's absolutely true.
This is not
You're not
DeAndre
because
Jordan.
I think what John seems to forget is you mentioned IQ. This is a guy that 9 times out of 10 is making the right basketball play. And you want that off the floor when it matters most. You probably don't off the floor. This is exactly what the Suns wanted. They wanted to pair these two together, especially.